I'd say that is good. I'm not gonna try. I'm gonna try not to. It really helps to have the right order. I'm gonna try not to paint over my larger tree there. That's not something that needs to go in the background. Hi, I'm Kevin Hill, and today we're going to do a beautiful painting in acrylics. We're going to be focusing mostly on the sunlight. I think it should be interesting. If you're looking forward to seeing this, and you'd like to see more, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more painting videos. Alright, let's get started. Now I'm misting my paints. That keeps them nice and wet, and I just applied, it was like 5-10 minutes ago, I just applied just a tone to the canvas, just a brown. That kills the white brightness, and that helps with acrylics. You don't always have to do it, but it does. I find it helps. So anyway, it's really not a big deal either way, but we're going to take a little bit of very light blue, and I'm just going to place this along in the sky area. Don't necessarily need to go crazy with this. I just think it'll be pretty. And oh, here's the photo that I'm painting from. I'm not going to copy it exactly. I may, put my own spin on it. I may even add something like a fence in the foreground, just something to add a little bit of visual interest in the foreground. This is actually a photo that my neighbor sent me of, I think, a family property. So that's really kind of fun. Actually, before we go any further, let's look at the paintings that you guys did of my last one. I really enjoyed seeing all of the paintings. You guys are doing so good. It's exciting. There, I'm not gonna go crazy. Actually, as I come down, I'm gonna grab just some white, just some pure white. It'll mix with the blue that's in my brush, but it'll make it even brighter down here. The idea is I just want a softness in this painting. And I think I'm gonna get it by doing this. That works. Now to keep this wet while you blend, give it a quick mist. The only problem with doing that is you gotta make sure that you completely work that water in. If you don't, it kind of leaves little droplets. That's not fun. Yep, that works though. Acrylics, they can be blended pretty effectively if you just work with them. Now I'm going to kind of sketch out where I think I want some trees. This is more of a distant tree covered hill back here, actually, is what that would be. All right, this is not dry yet, so we gotta not go too far. Of course, you don't want to paint acrylics while the background is wet. It doesn't usually work out real well. All right, that works though. I think we can live with that. What do you think? Halfway decent? Right, that looks pretty good. All right, now, just moving kind of right along with these colors, I'm gonna get us something a little more green. This is just, by the way, this was just kind of a mix of everything that I had. I just kind of scooped it all up. I think I added a little more blue to it. No, pretty much it. This is not a big deal. Yeah, it's not near dark enough. So watch this. Get a little darker. Acrylics are so fun for painting dark areas because you can layer them and get them as dark as you want. You can go pure black if you would like to. Maybe I won't go quite that far, but you could if you want to. There you go. Nice and dark shadows under these trees as you come up. Just make sure you have a softer top. Actually, I like to transition into something that's a little more yellowy, so it's not quite, I have a little more gold too. A little more gold. What's that? You can either go ahead and paint a tree over that, or you can fix it right now. I think I'm gonna fix it so I don't have to have a tree over it. This little spot, I don't even know. Did you guys see that happen? Because I didn't. There it is. I guess I'm gonna have to watch back the footage and see how that happened. That is so funny. But there you go. Just a little bit of tree action, literally just shaping the top of the trees with this, and then it melts down here into the darker colors. Not too much of this light stuff though, you can easily overdo that. The most important thing is the contrast. The darkness is really what's gonna make it a better painting. You don't wanna forget about the darkness. It's too good, it's too good. It makes your paintings pop. And it's so easy to get distracted, oh, I'm just gonna paint this tree all in one color. But you're going to be far better off painting it with several colors. So anyway, there you go. No big deal. This is definitely going to need another coat of paint because everything's kind of wet. It's kind of doing that acrylic kind of muddy thing that it does when it's wet. So we'll let it dry. Now I'm going to mix up kind of a yellow color, nothing too crazy. Yeah, somewhere in there. And Let's go ahead and underpaint our grass before we go any further up there, just because I'm tired of waiting on that. It's not drying super quick. It's it's just wet enough we can't do anything with it, but that's okay. Go ahead and get some of these beautiful light rays. I think the light is coming across, it's actually coming across like this today. So we will have a little shading up in here, but this is more of a, the shading's gonna be right there. It's more of a little mountain. Well, you've seen the picture. And like I said, the other thing I've done is I've actually turned it horizontal. It films, number one, it films a lot easier to do horizontal. And also I just thought that it maybe suited the addition of fence posts or something a little better. I don't know. But you could certainly do something like this either way. Yeah, okay, that's good. I like that. But you know what I like that's in the photo? Here, let me show you. I like this part. So it comes and it cuts the other part. See that off? I like that look. There's our shadow. That's good right there. Ooh, that's interesting. Very interesting. So you can see how the lay of the land makes a big difference here. Maybe do a little quick shade there. I think what we'll do is we'll let this completely dry really, really good. So probably half an hour or more of drying, once I'm confident that it's very, very dry. I'll probably come back in here and float just a little bit of mist over the whole background. So we actually need to go finish up that background. But like I said, I'm still waiting on it to fully dry so that I can get my details in there a little more crisp. That's pretty. Just let that scoop right off. See how this kind of tan underpainting is really working out. If this was white canvas, this would be harder. But see, any of this little bit that shows through just looks like soil underneath. Very handy. So now I'm kind of working on these now I am working on these background trees. And I mean, they're not really gonna be anything special or anything super exciting. They're just a hint of something happening in the background. You can see I smushed a little there just to give us a different effect. I'd say the most important part is leaving those little pockets of dark kind of in the trees. You want the pockets fairly small, but I think we want a lot of them. It's pretty. And like I said, I do think we're gonna end up coming back and probably putting some mist over most of this stuff here in the background, but it doesn't hurt to get it soft. Get those edges soft while you're up here. Makes things easier later. Okay. I'm gonna wipe that brush off, set it to the side. Actually, just gonna hold on to it because I want to real quick, watch this. I want to real quick grab just anything that's kind of grayish. That'll be fine right there. Watch this. I'm gonna float a little bit of shadow right here. Because watch what happens after you float that shadow. Now there's not that much paint there, so that should be pretty much ready to go. If there was a lot, I'd have to wait and let that dry. But anyway, the point is, let me grab just a little bit of kind of a bright color. Watch this. We're gonna just using my number 4 bristle brush. Of course, all these brushes are available on the website if you need them. But right here, just creating a little more detail on a few trees, just like that. And touch it with your finger. Helps soften. That's pretty. You can honestly go crazy to get all the detail that you want. Make it beautiful, make it bright. It's just yellow, mostly yellow and white. Using the roughness of the brush, the irregularity of the brush to my advantage instead of disadvantage. There's certain times you wouldn't want that. This time, you want it. There. It's kind of pretty. Just like the lights coming across and just really, and what we'll need to add, of course, accent highlights and stuff. This sort of thing doesn't happen just in one pass. It usually takes 3 or 4 passes, depending on what you're painting, to get it just the way that you need it to be. It's probably going to be a 2 or 3 pass sort of a thing. It sure is a good first layer. But that just helps to kind of create some interest back here. Yes. And the more irregular it is, I'd say the better off you're going to be in the long run. There's not a whole lot in this painting, so we got to do each element well. There's nowhere to hide. There's no big mountain to take your interest off this area. This is the interest right here. So, makes a difference on how you paint things, you know? If this was a mountain scene, I think I'd paint the trees differently. There, and that's okay. It's good to know. It's good to know that, you know, it's not necessarily, I don't know if I should even say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. It's not necessarily always necessary to to paint everything perfect. If you know you're not going to spend a lot of time looking at that area, don't put a lot of time in it, and put that time into something else that makes more sense. And that's pretty. Look at that. We're starting to just while we stand here, developing some beautiful light coming through this area. Now I've got my number 6 flat synthetic brush and just some white. And I'm going to tint it with a speck of blue just so it's not pure white, but it's mostly white. Very close, as you can see, to white. I'm also going to grab just a little bit of my foundation medium to mix in with this instead of water. Helps it to flow a little more evenly. All right, I'm going to repaint my sky. Now, this may seem a little bit weird, but it's actually fairly common for acrylic painting. I know a couple of artists that often will go back and repaint their sky. Just because acrylics can be transparent, you know, when you blend them, especially with water, they're transparent, fairly transparent. So you go back in, once your painting is kind of more established, and you can work your sky back in and kind of just give it another coat. And it really does work out pretty well. Because I'm not too sure how dry all this is, I'm not going to mist the canvas. I will mist my paint just to loosen it up, as well as the foundation medium. So we got both things working for us in there, which is really nice. Kind of give yourself a soft edge there. Yeah. It's good to let these, you know, background elements dry, of course, before you do something like this. One of my favorite acrylic painting features, we should call it, is the fact that you can get in here and punch holes in your trees. That is such a pain in oils, but it's so easy in acrylic because it's dry. You know, you can't mess it up. There you go. Nice, thick, opaque sky. That is so fun. Now we are going to mist this area out just a bit, remember? So maybe I won't go too crazy over here. You're just knowing I'm going to mist it out. This is not the misting step. A little more of our medium. There we go. We'll just keep working. And then as I go up, I will transition into some more kind of bluish colors. Again, I just kind of wanted a little bit. There we are. Just a little bit more shiny. I like that shininess of it, of the 2 coat versus the 1 coat. Pretty fun. Of course, if this was oils, probably wouldn't have this issue because they tend to be more opaque. Sometimes the acrylics tend to be more transparent. There you go. Get it all blended while it's wet. I'm doing this with my small brush, as you can see. You may be wondering, why would you be using such tiny brushes? Things small. Because I like the idea of having some brush strokes. I think that makes it look a little more artistic, and it makes me very happy. So, small brush it is. So now I'm working on just refining these trees again. Never really did finish the top of them, so that worked out. I hope you can tell the sky is a little brighter. Hopefully, you know, it was worth it and not just did it really change? It'll be interesting to see. Here in person, I can really tell there's some amount of change, but that's one nice thing about painting. It's not just one step and you're done. It's really a series of different steps, you know, that makes the biggest impact, I would say. The one and done sort of thing doesn't usually leave you with the best look. Way to take your paintings to the next level. You should be looking at all of these small details kind of in the big picture. Yeah, and we'll probably bring up some liner brush grass. Yes, we'll definitely have liner brush grass, but it's not going to be up in the trees. We'll be bringing up some branches and stuff. But a lot of this is going to be covered by what I think is more the feature, which is, of course, those large limbs, which are so beautiful. In fact, back here, we don't even want it. We don't want our darks fully dark back here. We don't want them fully dark. So I'm going to just lighten them a touch. Just like this. This is dry, so we're good to go here. This is acrylic, it's water-based. I don't mind getting my hands in here, getting a little bit messy. Soap and water cleanup, super easy. There. All right, not too dark, or not too light rather. Somewhere in there looks pretty good. Pretty good. Helps to have all these little details and whatnot in there. All those little bits and pieces make a difference. It's pretty. Soften that edge just a little up here. So you just work it around until you get it just the way that you want your painting. Then you stop, right? So that you lock it in and you don't mess it up. That's what I tell my students. Stop and put your brush down. There's a point where it doesn't get any better, right? Starts to get worse. We don't want to go there. So, anyway, I'm kind of just rambling because I'm trying to find a color that I want. There we go. Just trying to add a little softness right there. And again, not too worried. We are definitely going to be adding in our mist in just a few minutes. Before we do that though, let me grab just honestly, maybe just a little microfilbert brush and grab some yellow and white. And yeah, we're dry. Okay, we're good. And let's just paint in a little bit more highlight just kind of on some of these. I'm just gonna scumble it. Just scumble it like that. That's all you need. Makes a difference, doesn't it? Once that dries out, it'll be a little darker. It'll fit perfectly. It won't stand out or look like I blobbed on a bunch of paint. It'll just sort of be there. Kind of just outlining those a little bit like you would a cloud, actually. Not unlike a cloud. So now I've got kind of just a green mixed up. I put a little bit of our sap green with red, and that's about it. Kind of just tone it down. Let me get some of the paint out of that brush. Okay, that should be good. Kind of the next challenge, I would say, is we've got two trees overlapping. And this one that we're painting now is back. And we want it to look like it's kind of back. And we want that one on top to look very detailed. So the challenge is we've got to make this one soft enough that it kind of recedes a little bit, if that makes sense. This will help sell that illusion, you know, that, hey, this one's further away. There we go. So I'm gonna just spend a few extra minutes here just tapping with my bristle brush. And I think what we're gonna do is probably use the fan brush, or even maybe even the little flat brush that we use for the backgrounds, the flat blender, and maybe just, you know, stipple on some large leaves. That's just something different. And then maybe detail some of the leaves that are even closer with the little microfilbert, or even the custom angle filbert. Either one would be okay. All right, that works. That's the plan. Huh? This is crazy. We have a plan. What's going on? I like that. Just kind of starting with the golds and the yellows, transitioning into more of the greens as we go down. It's kind of fun. So now I'm just going to work on this grass, trying to brighten it up some. And as soon as we're done with that, I'd say our background will be good to go. And we'll float a little mist over it. I think it'll be nice. We'll do that before we put our biggest tree in. Probably makes sense. Not that it matters, since when do I ever go in the right order, but you know, it just kind of makes sense to me today. Well, there you go. As we go down, see, I'm allowing a little more of our negative space to happen in there. See that? As that light's coming maybe through those, who knows, through the trees, whatever. But it's just a little more sparse over here, and I like the way that looks. A little more interesting. So there you go. Nice fluffy edge. And of course, as you go back, here's what's important. As you go back, you want to smooth out your strokes. You don't want them to be nearly so distinct, because this will give you a better effect, more realistic effect. So there you go. None of this is at all difficult. Just a matter of playing around with your different colors. Nice. All right, back to the good stuff over here. A little bigger, but not a whole lot bigger as we come forward. This field is fairly short. Now I've got my custom tapered round brush and a very thin white. It's so thin. Look at this. So thin you can't even see it on the brush hardly. So right back here, I'd like to go ahead and dry brush blend. I'll start in the sky. and you put it on and you kind of see an outline, especially when you first put it on. But in most cases, even if you see a little outline in the sky, as long as you got it thin enough, it should disappear. So you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, I'd say that is good. I'm not going to try. I'm going to try not to. It really helps to have the right order. I'm going to try not to paint over my larger tree there. That's not something that needs to go in the background. But I think this is just going to give it a nice look. Kind of a very beautiful, soft haziness that I think is really going to work. Just white and a little bit of our foundation medium right here. A little bit of the foundation medium and a little bit of water. And that is about it. Not about it, that is it. A little bit more. Make sure it's nice and thin every time you mix it up. And it wouldn't hurt if your water for rinsing your brushes is very, very contaminated. It wouldn't hurt to just, hit it with the mister bottle instead. That will be a little safer. You don't want green in this area, like a green-white. Less important for trees, way more important for something like a sunset. Yeah, you don't want that happening. All right, so we'll just give this several coats. Give it a quick light coat, let it dry. Give it another quick light coat, let it dry, and so on. Let's go ahead and hit this background meadow as well. Now I'm going to add in another tree. I know what you're thinking. What's the point, What's the big deal about another tree? Well, look, check it out. We've got this nice misty layer. And now that this misty layer is in, we can plunk that tree, which actually is in the picture. We can plunk that right down in this field and then make a shadow for it. It'll be kind of pretty, just with our finger, actually. Yeah, that works. Actually, there's just maybe another little, it didn't really matter, just try to get some variation in here. That's very nice. Oh yeah, cool. What that does is creates a bit of separation. I'm gonna bring it up maybe just a little. I think that'd be more interesting. Good. We'll highlight that once it is dry. Actually, let's give it a quick mid-tone while it's not dry. I don't think it'll get too muddy. Sometimes when you highlight with acrylics while they're wet, they get very muddy. Sometimes they're okay. It just depends on kind of the look you're going for. That's probably sufficient for a mid-tone. Looks pretty good. My fingers are getting covered, but that is no big deal. There. Ooh, yeah, we actually got some good highlight. Now that there's not so many thick layers, the background is dry. It's really no big deal now. It's a little easier to get some of these things done. Well, it's still tacky, although not necessarily always a good idea. Remember to make your branches small in the background. It's so easy to get carried away and get big branches in the background, but your painting's going to look better if you have more proportional size. If you think about, hey, my leaves need to be small because they're in the background. It makes a better look. Now I'm going to mix together kind of a little dark brown, a little red in there is a good thing. You can see my paints are starting to dry out. Time to give them another mist. Looks pretty good. All right. We'll go ahead and just on this side of the painting, let's work on a beautiful tree that's going to come right through here. I've got my number 6 flat brush, if I forgot to mention that. There we go. I like that. Sometimes just a big tree limb going right through the painting can really make a difference, make it look very, very interesting. If your paint doesn't flow for you, throw a little bit of the foundation medium in. It'll flow after that for sure. Now, a lot of these limbs should be done with a liner brush, but definitely a good idea to get your big ones in with a flat brush, because that way you don't have to spend 20 minutes working on liner brush limbs, especially if you're not as comfortable with the liner brush. There we go. But definitely, you're limited. You're definitely limited on size here when you do it with this bigger brush. Anything like that, is it got too thick over there? I'm not even the tiniest bit worried because I will be adding leaves. It's not a bad idea to kind of thicken up that branch a little. There we go. So anyway, doesn't it look good though? I just think that looks super interesting. Super interesting. Nice, you just kind of rock back and you just use the edge of that brush. There is just a few, but I maybe won't make them quite as dark. Lighten it up with yellow ochre or something. Just a few little limbs, but not too many, sticking out from this tree here. Again, I'm not gonna go too symmetrical. So I've kind of messed one up there. It's not quite so symmetrical. Good. And we'll punch those back in with the leaves, you know, make them fit into the painting. Hey, that's something that's important. You got to make stuff go back and fit in the painting. That's close enough for me. Now, because this is acrylic, we can take advantage of some of those acrylic things. And honestly, the biggest thing is it dries so quickly. So we are going to take full advantage of that by using the liner brush now. Now, I would always wait for the liner brush at the very end, because then I'm not thinning my paint down. I'm not going to try to paint leaves over thin oil paint. Well, that's just not a problem here. It's going to dry by the time I get my other brush out, which is perfect. That way I can add in all of these limbs and they'll be already buried in the painting. I think it'll work out great and get all these little ones, and then I can purposely cover up the limbs that I don't care for when I go to actually, oh, I like that one. When we, speaking of ones I don't like, I like that one. When we go, come on now, when we go to actually paint the leaves, there. It's really cool. Now, unlike oil, what you want to do with your acrylics, you know, normally you're like, oh, I wouldn't use pure black. I would use, you know, I would put something in it, maybe brown or red or white, lighten it up. You know what I mean? But that's with oils. But with acrylic, it's the opposite, because you see you're adding water and that water will evaporate and it will look more transparent. And so it'll be lightened by the stuff that's underneath it that you're able to see through. So it's okay to go dark with your limbs. Ordinarily, what I was trying to say is ordinarily I don't go dark with my limbs because in oils they would look too dark. It's just the opposite in acrylic. Funny, huh? There. But just look at this amazing tree that we're getting. I love all of these little branches. You know, one thing, it just doesn't matter if all your branches connect. Nobody's going to stand there and look. So the important thing is that the overall feel of it is just right. Don't be so concerned about your branches all having to connect. We're too worried about that sometimes, aren't we? There. Get some just randomness happening up here. This is good. That makes it feel busy. I'm just dipping right into my water. That is all I need. I know it looks like a big mess that I'm never going to be able to solve, but I can get it sorted out with just some leaves. Cover it all up. That's all you have to do. It's just not that big of a deal. There. A little bit thick there. That will definitely be a good area to go ahead and leaf over. But there you go. You get the idea. Now, what we also ought to do while we're here painting, I'd love to go ahead and get some just branches and things here growing toward the bottom of the painting. These are like little shrubs or who knows what, just sticks, but just growth here. That I think is very interesting and adds that nice variety to the painting. So we're going to do it. How's that? Stand back, make sure you're getting everything looking good. Looking good. Get some over here. Now I think I'm going to do a fence, even though there's not a fence in this painting. I just think it would be interesting. Add a little character to this area right here. Maybe right, I don't know. We'll figure out where to put it here in a second, but I think it could be interesting. So don't be afraid to change around ideas and, you know, customize them a little. It's kind of fun. So now I'm going to mix up kind of a light yellow ochre color. Red in there is okay. And I'm going to highlight these fence posts here. Just threw them in very quickly with the little flat brush. In fact, they're still very much wet. Let me get them a little darker. There we go. You can always go back over them one more time once they're dry with that dark, just to get them nice and extra dark. I think I let some mud sneak into my color, which is no big deal when painting acrylics. All right, here we go. We're going to use our number 4 bristle brush to just slide down and create that beautiful texture. You can do this. I know they're wet. You can do this when they're dry. In fact, it's better to do this when they're dry. It's harder when it's wet. But you can obviously do it both ways. Experiment and see what you like the best, because everybody's got a slightly different feel for the brush. There. And some techniques may be more comfortable for you. Oops, that glob of paint is not comfortable for anybody. Look at that. What is it? Just blend that away. There. Now we have a rock in our background. That's exciting. That looks pretty decent, actually. Pretty decent. Another quick hit there. We need a mid-tone, so I think just to mix up a nice soft mid-tone, I'll just grab some of the browns and white, gold, just whatever, honestly. Who cares? Grab some color. A little brighter color. And we'll throw that in as our mid-tone to add a little texture. I say the rougher you make these look, the better. I think it'll just be more interesting. Let's face it, that is the goal. We want to make this foreground detailed. There. Okay, I'm very pleased with the look of that. It looks like logs. I didn't want it to look like cut, like lumber. I want it to look like logs, and that is definitely the vibe that I'm getting. So, that's good. A little, hey, you know what we gotta do? A little bit of highlight on top. And that may be better off with the detail, or not the detail round, the micro filbert brush for sure, to get these little crisp top areas a little more sharp. That makes that look better. Okay, doesn't take much, does it? I'll play around just a few more moments with these, but I will not worry too much about them. I think they're looking pretty good. Turn your brush flat and get a, oh wow, just get a different look to it. So now I've got my custom tapered filbert. This is kind of a nice brush for doing leaves and whatnot. Mostly leaves, grass too. But let's make sure you get it pulled to a nice edge there, and pretty much a little brighter. I'm second guessing myself. That's okay. Looks like I need more paint. Right in through there, maybe, for good color. For the background ones, we don't want them too dark. We don't want them too dark because we want to be able to go darker. And you know acrylics, they dry dark anyways. But let's go right here. Oh, that's it. That's it. And let's start touching to create these fairly large leaves. There, they're kind of floaty, kind of airy leaves today. Which means maybe they won't connect as much as normal. I do like to have, I always say one leaf touches another, So we'll still keep with that idea. But maybe we'll just try to make them a little more flowy. I think that works pretty well. Just like that. Now I've got the fan brush and I'm adding in some extra texture. I did about 50% of it with the angle filbert, and then we're gonna do about 50% right here with fan brush. Fan brush is faster, but that's not the point. The point is we must get multiple textures. If you paint just one single texture, it's going to be very flat or boring. But with at least two different brushes, then you got really no choice but to have some variation in texture as well. So it's most important. I can't tell you how many times I've almost like, oh, okay, I'm done with that tree, and I thought, wait, no, we got to have more texture, and then the tree looks so much better. It looks good until you put the fan brush strokes on, then it looks amazing. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I can live with that, but then no, you could actually do better just with a couple extra strokes. So hopefully that makes sense. Now this fan brush has a trick to it. This is a very soft, is it even a fan brush at this point? It's a very soft fan brush. And as you can see, it manipulates very easily. The trick to making this fan brush perform well for grass and leaves, the trick is less water. In fact, you may need to stop, wipe it out, and dry it off completely, and then keep going, depending on if you get too much water in your mix. So, less water if you're struggling with this particular fan brush. Too much water and it doesn't cooperate, doesn't do nice things. But when it's nice and dry, come on, tell me that's not going to make an amazing, irregular texture. Thousands of individual, different looking leaves in a matter of moments. Don't fill it in too much. You get to go and having fun here. And you could fill it in too much. Having said that, I do want to kind of cover that trunk a little more even than maybe the photo had, just for the sake of the painting. And then definitely right down here, super important, I want to get some nice, deep, dark texture. Oh yeah, looks like just stuff growing here in the shadows. And that makes me excited. So now I'm just going to thin down some sort of a light color here on my liner brush. Just something that's found there on the palette is fine. You don't have to make it new unless you want to. But let's just throw in a little bit of liner brush grass. We don't need really all that much. Just a bit to show some amount of detail here. Good. That's probably it. I'd say I added just a few dark ones there. A few bright ones and we'll call it good. There. Hey, tell you what's actually always fun. Some really dark ones. Really dark ones. Add some contrast that is so needed, you know, in the foreground. There. That looks good. And if you want to, honestly, if you want to, you could come back with your fan brush and do some more fan brush textures if you find the need for that. That could look really good. Just depends on how much of this you want to do. Or if you got an area you overdid and you want to kind of cover it back up again, you know. Get that fence. I want the fence to look like it's more there at the foreground. There we go. That looks good. Anyway, pretty fun. Pretty good stuff. Nice bright, couple bright blades of grass right there. All right, well, I think we're done. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. Don't forget to check out our website, DVDs, and Brushline. Thanks for watching.